And I got to bust your balls a little bit here, Pop. We said 3 Sam Howell keys to success, and you got only one thing about Sam Howell. The first two is about the rest of the team.
I said
Somehow.
the keys to Sam Howell being successful. It's all on how you interpret it.
Okay, twisting the words
Digging
a little
deeper,
bit. A
some. Peeling the
little bit of
onion
reminding.
back.
Pop, how's it going, man?
Going great. Going great. Riding
Man,
high.
viral. We are viral, guys. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you to the YouTube algorithm gods for feeding us to some new faces, and to everybody new here. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We're doing the thing. We're going to be here every week, and hopefully, you saw us last week for the first time. You're coming back this week. Some new quality content. So, guys, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you. It was a great surprise last week. Let's get down to it, shall we, Pop?
Love to get 1,000+ views every week. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, it will be great. One step closer to those Manscaped ad reads. We're working on it. So hey guys, if you want to get in on the ground floor of a great operation, come through. But anyways, this week, speaking of the ground floor, OTAs are over. We're on the vet mini camp starting next week. So we're gonna do a little bit of an OTA recap situation. Obviously, you guys saw the title is gonna be kind of centered around Sam Howell, but overall, we're going to cover a little bit of everything for the team. So the first thing I think we're going to start with, we're going to talk about 3 keys to success for Sam Howell this year, how we can get a playoff season out of the Commanders. What are 3 things we want to see from Sam Howell in order to get there? So, Pop, you want to kick us off? You want me to start? How do you want to do this?
I think I'll kick it off, and then you give you a
Go
chance to
ahead. Go
get
ahead.
yourself together over there. I tell you, son,
I
though,
like it.
fresh cut, you're looking good. Looking good, son.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Pop. Thank you,
Yeah.
Pop.
But I think it's not my 3 keys. I'll start with this. Number one, it's not all about Sam Howell. There are players that need to step up in this offense. Dotson in his
Yes.
second year. Curtis Samuel finally becomes that Swiss Army knife weapon, hopefully with some help from Eric Bieniemy's coaching that we've always waited for him to be. Antonio Gibson, similar thing there, right? Now that he's a third down back, does he step up and really excel in that role and that change of pace role? That offensive line, lots of new pieces there. He needs help from the rest of that offense to step up and do their part. So that's key number
Definitely.
one. Number two is coaching. Everybody's very high on Eric Bieniemy. We got a young quarterback. We got to coach to his strengths, right? And put him in the best possible position to succeed. We also got a hotshot quarterback coach that heard JP talking about quite a bit this week, and Tavita Pritchard from Stanford. That was a hot new coaching hire, and
Love
hearing
that.
a lot of great things about him as well. So he's got to get coached up, coached to his strengths. Don't expect too much out of this young player, right? And then I think third for me would be Sam himself playing within himself, right? Being able to
Love that.
self adjust, self correct, learn from his mistakes because he's going to make some, play to his strengths, right? Use his legs, make plays, but really operate mostly as a point guard, right? Get it into your weapons, keep it as simple as you possibly can, get the ball out of your hands quickly, make the proper read, get it in your playmakers' hands, let them make those plays yards after catch. I think if he plays within himself, I'm optimistic about what we'll see out of Sam Howell this year.
Love that. Love that. Love that analogy. The point guard at the end. I think that's really important in a Andy Reid style offense. You're kind of trying to get the ball out quick to your weapons in space. So
You know,
hopefully we see that line up.
I have to say, I was as we talked about, we did our top 10 quarterbacks, right? And so I was
Yep.
going through and I was looking at highlights of Pat Mahomes for the shorts edit, right? And
Yeah.
it was interesting in watching his highlights how many times he was just throwing to wide open players. Like, and I know some of that is that Pat Mahomes keeps you on your heels, right?
Yeah.
But so much of it too is that offense and the play calling is so brilliant that yes, he makes those spectacular plays when he has to, but so much of it is he's just taking what's there. And I was
Yeah.
taken aback in terms of looking at his highlights, and the highlight reels will break down every play he makes, and so many of those plays were just there for him to make, right? So I'm really hopeful that EB can bring some of that magic to the Commanders, and we'll see similar results. Not that Sam Howell is anything near Pat Mahomes, but if he just takes what's there, and again, my first key, the playmakers do their role and do their job, good things could be ahead for us.
Yeah, I mean, we saw, to take Mahomes out of it, we saw Alex Smith have MVP level success. It was actually the reason he ended up in DC was how well he performed in this offense. And we saw Alex Smith's talent level once he got to DC,
Great
like
point.
the raw talent. So if we can see that, like, game manager takes what's given to him kind of mindset, which I think we are asking a lot from a rookie quarterback, essentially with a lot to prove, to have that maturity and that poise to just take what's given to him. But I agree. If we see that, I think that's going to be a little bit of a win. I got to bust your balls a little bit here, Pop. We said 3 Sam Howell keys to success, and you got only one thing about Sam Howell. The first 2 is about the rest of the team. So I gotta just dig in on you a little bit there. It's a little, you got creative with it, but I like it. It's open to interpretation, and
I said the
somehow,
keys to Sam Howell being successable. It's all on how you interpret it.
oh, okay, twisted the words
Digging
a little bit.
deeper
It's a little
some.
bit of
Peeling the
little bit of
onion back.
revising. I like it. I like it. It worked out because I talked all Sam Howell in my 3
All
keys,
right.
and we managed to not have
Show
any
me how
overlap.
it's
So
done.
that works out good. So I'll show you. So number 1 is turnovers. That's going to be, I think we're going to live and die by the turnover this year. You look at what we did on the defense, we made some adjustments to get more takeaways there. And we want to see offensively, Sam's got to limit his turnovers. We saw in that Dallas game, everybody wants to talk about the deep ball to Terry McLaurin. Everybody wants to talk about the rushing touchdown. Everybody wants to talk about the way he hit Dotson on slants. He also threw a really ugly interception in the red zone. Really ugly. So you're going to see that. He's a rookie quarterback. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of sometimes he's just going to throw it to the other team. We should expect that. Peyton Manning set an NFL record that probably will never be broken. But we got to limit that. So we got to see where those turnovers are coming in. Is there week to week maturity? Is he throwing the same interception over and over again? Or is he kind of learning from it and throwing different interceptions as it goes? That's number 1
So
with
you
turnovers.
break
Go ahead,
my
Pop.
balls and your brilliant lead in that you could plug in any quarterback and say limit turnovers.
It's a rookie quarterback. We got to limit. His keys is limiting turnovers. If he can win the turnover battle, he'll be successful. We know he
That's a
has the
great point.
talent.
That's a great point.
We got to see if he can hold the ball, right? Come on. So what comes with turnovers is number 2, something that we have not seen in DC, maybe in my lifetime, is pocket presence. I want to see what this kid can do in the pocket. Last year, that was a huge issue for this team. Carson was a
Huge.
statue. Huge. Carson was a statue. He couldn't be touched. He couldn't move in the pocket. And then you had Taylor with his size, which is obviously a little bit of a concern with Howell as well. But you had Taylor's size kind of limits him and what he's able to do in the pocket. He's having to get out of the pocket a lot. And he wasn't, we saw last year, he was very reluctant to leave the pocket for some odd reason. So pocket presence is going to be key, especially with, I think, a spotty at best offensive line this year. We're going to have to see, how does Howell navigate the pocket? Does he know when to get outside and use his legs? Does he know when a play is going to start breaking down? Is he able to stay one step ahead of that play breaking down? I think that, you want to talk about Mahomes, I think he's the best that's ever been at that.
Right.
And I want to see if Howell can have some form of a pocket presence, because he's going to need it to survive behind that offensive line. The third thing, this is a little nerdy here, but the third thing that I think was a huge problem, and I think led to Scott Turner getting fired and led to Eric Bieniemy coming into town and to nothing working out last year. Red zone efficiency. I want to see what Sam is able to do in the red zone. If you look at the stats, I think I got this from teamrankings.com. Shout out to them. If you look at the stats, we were 24th in the NFL at touchdowns in the red zone percentage. So red zone scoring touchdowns only 24th in the NFL. It's honestly a miracle you can win 7 games like that, win
Yeah.
8 games. It's unbelievable. So if we can just regress to the mean a little bit there, we might be in better shape. I think it is. Yeah, I think that's a big issue, and that's something that we saw with Heineke's limited arm strength and with Carson's limited ability to throw to guys on his team. We saw serious issues with that last year in the red zone. You look at that game against Tennessee with the goal line interception. You look at Heineke. There was a few. I think he got outside the pocket. This one throw sticks in my head, and he had Cam Sims wide open in the back of the end zone, and he just floats it 4 feet over his head. You look at stuff like that, and you compare it to that run that Howell had for the touchdown, and you compare it to the arm strength that he has, maybe he can get those quick 5-yard out balls to Dotson in space, the 5-yard slants to McLaurin in space. That I think is going to be super, super important because we have that power running, right? We have Brian Robinson will run you over within the 3, but now if we can get it so there's only 5 guys in the box instead of 8, we can keep them honest, that's going to open up so much for us. I think that is, I know I put that number 3, but I think that's number 1 for me that I want to see from Sam Howell. Let's score some touchdowns in the red zone.
Yeah, I think hopefully with his ability to use his legs and also hopefully maximize the playmakers that he has and the running game that we hopefully will have, that will help
Yep.
with that. And I think we talked about Sam Howell optimism meter last week. I think you were what, 6? Was it a 6?
6,
I
yeah.
was
It
seven
was
and
a
a
6.
half. Trying to remember, was I 7 or 7.5? I think seven
I
and a
think
half.
7.5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Has that number changed at all? Because you're getting pretty hyped this week. Are you gonna stick by it?
Yeah, it's a good question because I do want to highlight. I think there's a little bit of reason for optimism right now. I really
A
think there
little
is.
blood
I
flow
don't.
has started.
It's a little, yeah. Things are moving. It's a little, it's a little guarded optimism is where I'm at right now with the Howell situation. Yeah, a little bit of adrenaline. I'm feeling good. I think it's important to read between the lines when you hear guys like JP and B Mitch and John Keim and the analysts talk, and all of a sudden, the narrative in January is really this is the guy you're going to go with 11 NFL completions. That's a hell of a jump. I don't know if I believe that one bit, right? 5 short months ago to now, you're seeing the kid, granted, in a t-shirt and shorts, right? No pads, no contact in practice. That's where that pocket presence key is going to really come into play. But you're seeing him play, and now all of a sudden, you're hearing, hey man, if he can just not throw interceptions, we're going to get some pretty good quarterback play out of him. And I think that sounds like a very subtle thing, but compare that to where we've been the last 3 years in this position.
Yeah, feels like
Oh,
to me. It feels like to me that when it was Wentz, everybody was trying to talk themselves into him being the guy. But you were seeing
yeah,
overthrown passes and not necessarily the taking command of the offense, taking command of the
yeah,
team, and it was just like everyone was just trying to talk themselves into. With Hal, if you read the comments and you hear what the players are saying, what I get out of it is it's a big upgrade over last year. And
yeah,
hearing that already, there are two keys for me. Hearing those kind of comments, right, about arm strength and his presence in terms of I think pocket presence is probably going to be the one area he struggles in the most. But that's where I go
yeah,
back to one of my keys on the coaching side. You got to put him in positions. You got to realize that. Got to get him moving out of the pocket and play to his strengths. And hopefully that presence will come over time. But you hear that. The second thing you're not hearing of, second name you're not hearing of at all. We thought we'd be hearing that name a lot. Jacoby Brissett. Like
You're Geno Smith.
this
This year
feels
is Geno
like
Smith.
Sam Howell's team. And that's
Yeah.
really telling too. Like sometimes you get those early vibes. We're going to talk defense in a little bit, like with Emmanuel Forbes. Somebody's the real deal. And I think there's no better time, we talked about this earlier, than to go with a Sam Howell than now. It's a team in
Yep.
transition. And I'll say this, I'll close here on this topic for me. We never thought Dan Snyder would be out of here, and we never thought we'd find a quarterback. Maybe this is a year that lightning strikes, and we finally found our guy, and and he shows enough where we get excited and we could build from it. But it makes perfect sense to go this route and see what we got. And I'm, early returns, cautiously optimistic about what we have in Sam Howell.
Yeah, that's why I'm wearing the T-shirt that I'm wearing today, because I think we are at critical mass for Ashburn
We
syndrome
are.
right now. I think
We are.
this is the worst time of the year to catch it. Go get whatever, vitamin C, whatever you need to do to fight it off, because it is running rampant through the streets
Hey,
right now.
gotta
And
have fun sometime.
I can't say I'm not falling a little bit victim to it. I think we got to have karma's got to start swinging the other direction for this franchise at some point, right? Why not now?
Right.
But it's May. Let's have some fun, or I guess it's June now. But let's get on to the defense. You mentioned that. There's a great segue there. We've got some really positive reports coming out about the secondary, about Emmanuel Forbes, particularly, and Quan Martin as well. And man, it's exciting because the secondary was the weak spot last year of the defense. We all thought it was going to be the linebackers, but it ended up being that secondary, the depth, and we saw the defense really step up when Benjamin St-Juste was having his breakout, and it was more about this defense doesn't like to blitz a lot. We like to get pressure from our front four, and what that requires is you need 2.5, maybe 3.5 seconds for the secondary to hold. So when that secondary play stepped up, that's when we saw the defensive line really start to dominate last year. So how are you feeling, Pop? You think we're going to see something like that right out the gate this year with these additions of Forbes and Martin?
I mean, it's great to hear from early returns. I mean, Jack Del Rio gave his press conference, and we'll talk a little bit about, EB's press conference as well after this. But, he's it just feels like Forbes is the real deal. It reminds me a little bit of, you mentioned the Dotson pick, giving credit to you, right? And then very early on, OTAs last year and into mini camp and training camp, everybody just continued to be impressed by Dotson.
Yeah.
That's the vibe you're getting by Forbes, not only from Forbes, but also from Quan, right? And, to have those two guys, and they seem like I've seen them do little social media clips together. They call themselves 1 and 2. They seem to have a real bond there. And it's going to be a competition for who starts in that secondary. I mean, I thought Ben St-Juste was going to be my breakout player because I didn't want to go obvious with a Forbes. But does he even crack the starting lineup at this point? Because it seems like Forbes is firmly cemented as a starter, which is great to see. I think in the defense overall, right, they were a top 3 defense last year, and they improved in many areas. And, Del Rio said, hey, look, I want this team to, start fast and force more turnovers. You can see that that's really a point of emphasis. So they get a little bit more help from that offense and hopefully an upgraded quarterback, whether it's Howe or Brissett playing. It could be a reason for a lot of optimism. Now, we got the whole, Chase Young sweat kind of concern, although I think we've beefed up the backups on that D line, and the interior of that D line is just excellent. Not only the starters but the depth, safety play, some really good young safeties there as well. There's a lot to be optimistic about. Now, linebacker, I hear you're still kind of training for your tryout, but
Yeah.
Del Rio had some interesting takes on the linebacker position.
Yeah, it's the linebacker thing is weird. At the point now where I don't really worry about linebacker, and I also have heard nothing but good stuff about that kid out of Seattle,
Cody
Barton,
Barton,
that we
yeah.
brought in. It seems like guys are loving him. I'll let you give more details on Del Rio's take. But if we can get C, 75 out of 100, firm C performance out of our linebackers, that's what we've been getting for the last few years with this defense. And if the secondary and the defensive line are an A, let's call it what it is. It's a pass first league. The NFL is changing a lot. And I think personally, if you have a real field general, a Fred Warner at linebacker, of course you're at a huge advantage. But I think if you have an above average safety and you compare that to a middle of the road linebacker, you want that safety out on the field instead in today's NFL.
Right.
So I'm not worried about the linebacker situation at all. That being said, I've been bulking up. I'm going to come out and play on the vet minimum. If you guys are interested,
What's your 40 time up to now? I mean, the bulk up's one thing, but I don't know. I've checked the tread, or I had your roommate check the tread on your running shoes, and I don't know. Not a lot of wear
it's
on
not
those
like,
things.
yeah, I've actually been looking into installing some golf spikes into the running shoes instead. I think they might get a little more utility that way.
Now, the seat of your chair, I hear, is pretty worn out, but I don't know
Yeah,
about those
worn
running
down.
shoes.
That and the thumbsticks on the PlayStation controller, worn to the bone.
We got to pick up that training pace, but yeah,
I've been playing Madden. I'm studying film.
There you go. You're working on the mental first, and then we'll get into
I'm gonna
physical.
I'm a green dot guy. I'm going to be communicating to the
It's
defense.
June, son. Training camp starts in 2 months. Wow, that's
I dust
crazy.
it off. I've always been
months.
a procrastinator. I've always been a procrastinator. You know how it used to be, son. Is the essay done? No. When's it due? Tomorrow. How long is it? 5 pages. And then, hey, Pop, check it out. A+ on the essay. You know how I do. I'm better under pressure.
All right, we'll see. But I think Del Rio said a couple things about linebacker that was interesting, right? He talked up Cody Barton, which was great to hear, right? So they seem very impressed by Barton, and maybe that turns out to be an upgrade, at that position. But he also kind of lit a little bit of a fire under Jamin Davis, right? So we were critical of Ron and Jack for being critical of Jamin Davis a year ago, but it seemed to work, seemed to spark something in him, and we saw a lot big improvement out of Jamin Davis. He's your breakout player, but it seemed like he said he's going to get pushed, and they especially talked about Khalid Hudson, who played really well in that Dallas game, being a guy that could push Jamin. So interesting to hear. Maybe that linebacker depth is a little bit better than we thought. And Jamin's been missing time in OTAs because of what we hear is a minor injury, but almost sounds like his coach is giving him a little bit of nudge to get him out there.
Yeah, I'm a little worried about Jamin's health. And it's just a shame for that kid, man. I like him. I like the way he's responded to the adversity. I think from the beginning, it's been a little bit of a square peg, round hole situation with him on this team in terms of his abilities and our needs. They seem to find a stride towards the end of last year, and now we're hearing about, was it knee or ankle, some kind of cleanup procedure he's having done for some lingering but non-serious injury. And man, I'm bummed about that, because if he loses that step, if he loses that speed because of this, we're in trouble. He's in trouble. I think his career in DC could be in trouble, unfortunately. But root for the name on the front rather than the back. So if the other guys are ready to step up, I'm excited about that too. But I do hope the best for Jamin there. Anything from EB's presser you want to know, Pop?
I think you mentioned it. You said it again. Just what an impressive guy in terms of when he gets in front of the press. And I think there wasn't anything I would say that really popped. I mean, he talked a bit about Sam Howell, talked a bit about his coaching staff and who's doing what, the pace of practice and the fact that he's loud and you're going to hear him. Reminds me a little bit of Brian Mitchell in terms of just some of the way he words things and talks about it. And, even, self-deprecated a little bit and saying that, he knows that at times maybe he's a little loud or a little harder than he might need to be at times. But
same hairstyle too.
Yeah, it's a good point. He talked about Sam Howell quite a bit in terms of his ability to learn from his mistakes, how competitive he is, all positive there. But yeah, just impressive. Like you said, how the heck is he not a head coach already? And interesting point about what do you do or what happens, and maybe for another pod, if this is a successful year. I just don't think you can let this guy leave the building, even if that means a promotion.
Yeah, I agree.
But we'll get into
I
that.
agree
That'd be a
because
spicy topic for another pod.
it is, and I think there's a lot to talk about there. So maybe next week, maybe the boys start cooking up another banger headline and a thumbnail. Maybe we get into it next week. We definitely are looking for things to talk about this time of year. So maybe it's time for a little conspiracy theory
Yeah, we
podcast
got to
in
play that
relation to the
music.
Commanders, right? Yeah. um, yeah, I agree with you on that on the Bieniemy stuff. It's just amazing. I mean, we've texted back and forth. I'm like, I want this guy to be my boss. I want to go play football for this guy. Like I love the confidence and the way he runs the team. And it is, have you ever seen? And granted, I mean, we don't follow all 32 teams, but have you ever seen this level of excitement around an offensive coordinator?
No.
I mean, this is like the level of hype and media attention he's getting. This is head coach stuff. This is like
Yep.
this reminds me of like when Shanahan came here.
Yep.
Like it's like that. Like everybody's so excited. Like this is the guy. This is it. And I think if you told us that Bieniemy was going to be coming here to coach in DC this time last year, we'd be going, "Oh my God! Finally, we hired him as our head coach. That's amazing." And it's still blowing my mind a little bit that he's an offensive coordinator. But yeah, like you said, I think next week maybe we dive into that and we really can talk about some of the underlying comments and behind the scene and maybe how some of the power seems to have shifted around a little bit there. But I think one other thing I want to note, Howell seems to be a great fit for Bieniemy personality wise. And that's what I love is he's talked about he likes to be coached hard. He likes to put the work in. He has an absolute there's been reports that this guy is just obsessed with football. And I think,
Love that.
some of the comps that he was getting coming out of college, you're talking about Baker Mayfield was the big one. And the big issue with that guy was never his talent or his moxie. It was the off the field. Can he get into it, right?
Right.
If we've got a Baker Mayfield level prospect that's obsessed with football and we've got Eric Bieniemy kind of guiding him and showing him the way, I mean, how can you, if you're Sam Howell, this is the guy that was Patrick Mahomes' right hand man. What more can you ask for?
Exactly.
I mean, seriously, this is unbelievable. So I I'm very excited about the whole synergy and the way that this whole thing is planning out. Maybe it's Josh Harris getting back into favor with the media. People aren't so mad at Dan Snyder anymore. We're getting some positive stories, but either way, it's exciting. So I think that's it for the Commanders. What do you say, Pop?
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit of NBA. Let's talk a little hoops.
Let's do it. Let's NBA it up. It's been, last night was obviously game one. It's going to be, there will probably be a couple more games by the time you guys see the pod. We're recording a little on the earlier side this weekend. But Miami and Denver, the 1 seed versus the 8 seed, David versus Goliath. Almost literally, if you look at like Jokic's height compared to the rest of the Miami, like it's like he's very literally David on that, or
Yeah.
Goliath, sorry, on that court. But man, I think Goliath wins this matchup. I'll tell you what. I know we're gonna make predictions in a second, but I just don't think you're beating Denver. I think Denver is too good. What do you think, Pop?
Yeah, I mean, I agree, and Jokic just continues to do whatever it takes to win. Another triple double. I mean,
Yeah,
I was watching the pregame. They say, "Will he get a triple double?" People weren't sure, but he's like a triple double machine, and he just does whatever it takes to have his team win. And him and Murray combined for I think 53 points, and they're a dynamic duo. But I felt like there were things coming out, and you even said, "Oh, Denver's dominating," and they did have a good cushion the whole game. But Miami hung in there, and it was only natural after that series for there to be a little bit of a letdown in Miami. So I think
yeah,
Miami's going to be a tougher out than what the hype or what the media is making this out to be. And they got a
yeah,
nice long break now. You play Thursday night. Actually, game two is on Sunday. So they got, some time in between to kind of get their legs under them, get that first one out of the way. They're the classic underdog the whole way through. They're going to hear the
yeah.
chirping. I don't think they're going to go down without a fight.
Well, the X factor there, and not to say that this is not the case in Denver, because I think their coach has done a great job with that team as well. But Eric Spoelstra is just an amazing coach, probably the best coach in basketball right now. At the moment, not talking legacy. I know Pop is still active, but in the moment right now, probably the best coach in basketball. And so you combine that with Jimmy Butler, just a winner. He's just a winner. Still hasn't gotten over that hump yet in the championship. He's here. He wants another chance. Maybe he can do it. And you're looking at in 2020, that bubble championship against LeBron. Similar situation. You got the more star power on the other side. You got the team with grit in Miami that's hot. And maybe they've kind of learned from where they were last year and they can come back. I agree with your point. At the end of the day, 11 points on the road is not the craziest deficit. It doesn't show absolute domination. The one seed at home wins by 11 points. It's not like they got blown out by 30,
I
you know?
agree. I agree.
So without further ado, I think we've given our analysis here. It should be interesting. I'm excited to watch the next game. Why don't we get into our Bada Bets? Bringing it back this episode.
It never goes away, right?
No, never goes away. Never goes away. We just get a little bit more, we take breaks when we need to. We want to make sure we gamble responsibly here. So we don't do it habitually. It's when it's the right time. So today, Bada Bets, I think we're going to just talk about who wins the series and in how many games. So I don't know who wants to go first here. You want me to go first?
I want you to go first.
I had Denver in 5 at the beginning of this conversation, and now I'm feeling more Denver in 6, but I feel like that's going to be your prediction. Screw it. I'll go, you know what? I'll go Nuggets 7, because that's what I want to see.
Damn,
I want to see
you
a
took my
7-game
prediction.
series.
I thought I was going to shock the world. That's my prediction. Denver at 7.
Oh,
I think Miami's going to make it a much tougher series than everybody's predicting. So we're of like minds on that one.
Yeah, so I said it on the record.
Come on, son.
Denver in
5, 6, 7. You stole Pop's thunder. Oh, man.
That's what I offered. You gave me the first pick.
Because I thought you were going to go Denver at 5 or Denver at 6. And then I was going to shock it with 7. So we're exposing ourselves here.
Yeah,
if it's a 4-game sweep, we're going to look pretty stupid.
I really do feel in my gut Denver in 5, but I don't want to bet. I just hate betting against Jimmy Butler. That's my heart. I love Jimmy Butler. I think he's a fantastic basketball player. I really think he's the closest thing to Kobe that we have in the NBA right now. And maybe not his level of dominance, but in terms of his just his attitude and the way he attacks the game, maybe Philly has something different to say about that. But I think him in Miami right now is the closest thing we have to that. I just love watching his game. I mean, he's so smooth, and he slows the game down. It's almost like he's in the Matrix when he plays. He looks like he's moving slow, but he's getting by everybody. He's getting the exact look that he wants. It's no wasted movement. It's like when you watch an 80-year-old on the golf course and he's smacking it 350 yards. It's just he makes it look so simple, and his willingness to play defense, to rebound. He's just I love the guy.
Miami has that experience too.
It is a team sport.
Butler hasn't won a championship, but he's been to the championship. He's been in, the Eastern Conference championship. You got Lowry, who's won a championship. I think this Denver team, talk about Spoelstra and, of course, Pat Riley. He's got a championship pedigree there. I think this Miami team has 2 things going for them, right? They've got the experience in the playoffs and these pressure situations, and they're the underdog. They've got really nothing to lose here. They're supposed to get blown out, right? With Denver, if Miami could get a win, especially in this next game, or even take a couple at home, put that pressure back on Denver. Denver's never really been in that situation before,
That's a great point.
And they've had a pretty dominant ride through this playoff so far. So I still think Denver comes out on top. I was going to say Denver in 6. I wanted to be a little bit more spicy than that. Go with the 7-game prediction. But I but I think Miami's going to push them more than what people are saying out there. I really do.
Yeah, I really agree. I think at the end of the day, what it really comes down to, we've said this all the time. We watch a lot of ball. We always talk it together. I think at the end of the day, the hardest basketball player to defend on the court, that's usually the team that wins over a 7-game series. And I just think Jokic is just an alien, man. It's just
Yeah.
it's hard to do much about that guy. And you add Murray now, and it's like it's it's just hard to see them not winning this
Yeah.
year. It really feels like their
And
year.
they play
But
like the ultimate team, right? Where your best
yeah,
player is trying to make everyone else in the court. I mean, that better. That to me
yep,
is really what defines, greatness in a player is when they make their teammates better. And Jokic is
yeah,
not only a guy that's capable of doing it on his own, but he's all about, making his teammates better too. And that becomes
yeah.
extremely hard to defend, right? Because he's
That's what.
assisting, he's rebounding, and he's getting his when when the defense maybe gets lulled to sleep a little bit trying to defend the other weapons. Um, yeah, I mean another wizard ex-wizard doing a little damage there in Caldwell Pope. I always loved
Yep,
him when he played for the Wiz. He's sneaky good and hitting those clutch shots.
yep.
So agree.
Yeah, Jokic is his. That's the thing that I think takes him over the top. You highlighted the assist. The way that guy can facilitate is just when you have a big man that can draw that much attention and he's able to dump the ball off and he'll go up and then he'll drop it to somebody else. Like that's really as a defense when you just kind of have to go like that.
No
Like
doubt.
what can we even do at this point? And he seems to always know when to take it and when to give it up. Like it seems like he has that balance. He's like, oh, you're gonna give me this? Okay, 2 points. Oh, you're not? Where's Murray? And then it's Murray's lights out.
Well, Diamond
But I
Pop
think
on the
that's
record. Denver and 7. We're in it together. We sink or swim together.
we're in it together. I hope I'm wrong though. I'm rooting for Miami, but my prediction is got to be Denver.
Yeah,
But
agree.
I think without further ado, we wrap this thing up, Pop. Guys,
Agree.
thank you again for tuning in. If you've been with us this long, I mean, come on, what are you even doing? You clearly like us. Hit that subscribe button. If you're at this point, hit the
Or
subscribe,
grab that
drop a
link,
comment.
text it to a friend.
Yep. Say, hey guys, get in on the ground floor of this thing. We got to get in early before we go Hollywood on you guys. But thank you so much for watching. Without further ado, I've been Dom.
This is Pop.
Thanks for another great week.